Hello everyone, and I hope you are doing well. It's been a while since I have talked to the camera because my last video I was sick and recovering from a third round of the disease I shall not name. Thankfully it was very short-lived this time. It was very, very underwhelming in the best way possible. However, now I'm talking to you post-recovery. I had a minor surgery. I had to have a suspicious place on my back removed. It wasn't skin cancer, but it could turn into skin cancer. So my dermatologist was like, we need to take it out. And it ended up being more invasive of a procedure than I was expecting. It was a lot more painful than I thought it was going to be. Yesterday was a rough day, but today I'm feeling really good. I just have to be careful with how I move so I don't rip the stitches. But anyway, that's going well. So what to talk about today? Well, I have two main things I want to tell you. I want to kind of bring you along to wrap up the semester. I have 1 week of classes left. It's an unusual week of classes. It's like a partial week of class. I don't have my Latin reading group is not meeting next week, so that's a huge workload off of my plate next week, but that'll give me extra time to finish up some reading that I'm doing. To wrap up reading hours for this semester. Right now I am reading a book. Make sure the camera is still focused. Yeah, okay. So right now I'm reading a book. I can't show you the front because I think it's got my student ID on it. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, no, it actually doesn't. I had to borrow it from the library through interlibrary loan, but it's the book King of Mysteries, Early Irish Religious Writings by John Carey. If you have become curious about Irish literature through watching my channel and would like an introduction to it, this is a good book. There are way more texts than what this book can cover, but this is a really good introduction for those who are not, shall we say, for those who are not as well versed in the field. He gives some really good introductions to the texts that are in here, and the introduction itself is an excellent piece of writing. The introduction to the collection as a whole. I have a few chapters left of this that I want to read. I'm not reading the whole book from cover to cover, though I do want to buy it myself at some point. I'm going to look for it used. But let's see, what do I want to read? So right now there's a piece that I'm reading. It's called The Alphabet of Devotion. It's apparently a very popular text. It appears in many manuscripts. So I'm going to read that. And then I just read The Vision of Adhavan, which was kind of wild. That was a fun read. And let's see, what else? There's a hymn to St. Bridget that I'm probably going to read, and then a few other smaller works. We'll see what I have time to get through. But that's my goal for finishing up the semester, is finishing this and then wrapping up a good chunk of my reading list. I'm really proud of how much I got through in just half of a semester, because the first half of the semester was working on reading the general reading list for my degree, and then towards the middle of the semester we switched over to my personalized reading list in Irish literature, and I got through quite a bit, so I'm a little proud of myself for that. I got through more than I thought I was going to. So yeah, but it's been a good semester. It's been a rough one just because I haven't had a break since I started the program a year ago. Not a proper break where I just completely stop all work and just enjoy some R&R and take a mental reset from everything. And that's to be expected in a PhD program. That's something that I wish I had known going into it. Not that it would have changed my mind in any way. I love what I'm doing, but it's something that you don't really think about, being very different from any other school that you've done previously. It's even different from a master's degree. From a master's degree, you finish your classes and that's it. That's all you're thinking about. But with a PhD, there's always extra things going on, like your reading list, like taking notes on everything you read for your dissertation, working on publications. So there's really, PhD work never stops. And so unless you schedule a break and plan to have time off, it won't happen. And so I was talking to my advisor and telling him, look, I will keep pushing through if you tell me I need to, but would it set me back too much to take off the rest of December? after the semester ends. And he's like, by no means at all. Like, don't worry about that. Take the break. You'll feel better afterwards, and you'll be better prepared for your next semester. It's my last semester of coursework, and it's going to be brutal. I think I say that every semester, but this one is truly going to be brutal. But we're going to get through it. We're going to do our very best. And that's the most anyone can do, right? I've also got an exciting internship opportunity that may be going through. Once I know all the details, I will let you know. But I'm very excited about this possibility because I would like to someday work in academic publishing. I would love to work on my own books. I would love to write books, make critical editions of Irish texts that have not been translated. And then I would also love to write, I would love to be a writer who writes kind of in the middle, where I write scholarly works, but I also write popular works that are more scholarly informed. I guess that's a clunky way of phrasing it, but there are a lot of popular books out there on Celticism and Celtic stories that are just not well researched or well informed. And it's not completely the fault of the author because it's hard to get a hold of some of this information. And so I would like to write more popular books for people who don't necessarily, want to go into graduate work on this field, but would like to, learn more about these stories. So this internship might be a good step towards that. So we'll see. Okay. So now let's pivot to what I'm going to do on my break. There's not going to be a whole lot going on other than sleeping and painting and reading and playing Legend of Zelda and taking Bear on as many winter walks as our hearts desire, because walks in the winter, they're very underrated in my opinion. I love walking in the winter time. That's probably my favorite time of year to go walking. I'm looking forward to that. And then yes, lots of painting. For an early Christmas present, my mom sent me a gift card to Jackson's Art. So I'm really excited because I got a few new paints, and they're brands that some of them are brands I've never tried before. I got some Isero paints. You can only get them, as far as I know, I've only been able to find them in Jackson's Art. I got a couple of colors from Isero. I got a limited edition Roman Schmal color, and then I got a Schmincke Horadam super granulating color. So I won't tell you which ones I got. I'll wait till I get the package and we can do an unboxing and swatching video. So I'm really excited about those. They will be really good for winter snowy scenes. So I'll be painting a lot on break. And then I have a pretty massive TBR list, a to be read list. So I'm going to show you a few of those. I probably won't get through all of them because I want to savor these. I want to take my time and just really soak up this fiction. When I'm reading stuff for school, I love what I'm reading for school, but there's always the pressure to take notes on what I'm reading, and I'm always thinking about what I'm reading on a really deep level and having to think about how this relates to, my writing projects and things like that. So it's not how shall I describe it? It's not a kind of reading where I'm just like soaking up the inspiration of a story just for the sake of itself. Like, the whole reason we read literature, literature is not something that's utilitarian. Literature is something to be enjoyed. I think it was Victor Hugo who said, "The beautiful is as useful as the useful, perhaps more so." And I love that. And so when I read fiction, it's that opportunity for me to just read for the pleasure of reading and for its own sake. And so I'm going to take some time to do that, to indulge in that luxury, because I don't really get to do that during the semester. I've tried, but I go super slow through books, and I don't get that experience of being completely immersed in that world and lost in that world that I love. And so on my breaks, I try to take time to read some fiction. So I'm going to show you what's on my list. These are in no particular order, and again, I may not get through all of these because I want to go slow and savor them. So I will read any or all of these books on my break. But one of the first ones that I'm really excited about is this book by Stephen Lawhead. It's called The Paradise War. I have never read anything by Stephen Lawhead, but a friend of mine got this for me for my birthday, and she told me that this was the author who made her fall in love with fantasy. And so, of course, my interest was piqued. And not only that, but this story is specifically about the Celtic otherworld. So I mean, need I say more? Another book that I have mentioned several times on my channel as something that I am working through reading but have never actually finished reading is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I love this book, but it's one of those books where, again, like all these other books, the world and the vibe of the book is so enchanting. I want to be able to just completely get lost in it. I don't want to just read a little bit here and there several days apart or even weeks apart and digest the book that way. I want to really soak up the experience of reading it because I think I'm going to absolutely love it. And so I've put it aside, or had put it aside a while ago, but I'm determined to make the time to finish this because it's set in Iceland, so it's got winter vibes. It starts off in October, and again, it's about fairies. So you'll notice that the theme of all these books is still adjacent to my schoolwork because I love fantasy. I love Celtic things. I love fairies. And so all of my fiction is still adjacent to my schoolwork. So a third book on my list is called The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. It's a Russian novel. And it's set in wintertime, so perfect for this time of year. And it looks fascinating. I've never heard of it before, so it's completely brand new to me. But it's the story about this woman who has some kind of encounter with this formidable creature of legend named Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon. So it sounds really spooky, really cool, perfect for wintertime. So I'll have to let you know how I like it. I've never even heard of the author before, but this looks really, really interesting. So that's book number 3 on the list. And then the fourth book that I have to show you, I'm embarrassed to say I have never read anything by Susanna Clarke. And I don't know how I've missed reading her stuff because I did pick up one of her short stories, The Wood at Winter. Yes, I did pick that up and I read that. It's delightful. And I decided to pick up this book, her book, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. One of my professors, long story, I'm meeting with my PhD advisor and a colleague of his from another university, and we're reading through an Irish text in Irish. By we are reading it, they are reading it to me in the Irish and translating it, and we're discussing it because I still can't read Irish yet. But anyway, in one of our meetings, my advisor's colleague, he mentioned this book as being really good, and I keep hearing it everywhere. You know how sometimes something gets mentioned and then you start seeing it everywhere? Well, that's how it's been with this book. It's not a new book. This is the 20th anniversary edition, but it looks really fascinating. It's set in 1806 during the Napoleonic Wars, so it's outside of my medieval purview, but it's a very dark academia feeling. It's about a couple of wizards in some kind of, epic competition. It sounds like everything that I would love. Yeah, and because it's super long, it's super thick, I'm torn because do I start this long one or do I start with some of the shorter ones and work through multiple? We'll see how it goes. This may end up being a summer read. We'll see. And then I've got 2 more. One is The Shadow of Night. This is the second book in the All Souls trilogy. I loved the first one. The first one was perfect to read for October. It was the perfect Halloween story. But book 2 is set in Elizabethan England. It picks up where book 1 left off. And this is also one where you want to really get immersed in the world. So I've tried starting it. I've read a little bit of it, you can see. But it's another one that I'm like, no, I need to set aside time to really savor this book. So book 2 in the All Souls series. And then this one, Shady Hollow, still haven't gotten to read this one yet. I picked it up this summer, but it's one that's just waiting to be read when I have time, but it also looks really, really good. I even thought about picking up the Christmas one because I don't think you have to read them in order. So I might pick up the Christmas one and read that over Christmas. And I'm pretty sure there's a Christmas one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's a Halloween one, but I think there's a Christmas one too. As if I need another book on my TBR list, but there's no such thing as too many books. I saw a t-shirt today. I was looking for something for one of my siblings for Christmas, and I came across a t-shirt that said, "It's not hoarding if it's books," and it's a picture of this dragon sitting on top of his hoard of books, and I'm like, I need that t-shirt. That's my motto. Finally, the last book on my list, I might not touch it at all. And the reason why is because it's an academic book, and it's one that I really might want to take notes on. But I still might read it because it's one that's not on my reading list, but I think it might be really informative for everything that I want to do in my dissertation and in some writing projects that I might have coming up. And so it might be good to go ahead and read it. It's The Medieval Imagination by Jacques Le Goff. It's a translation of the French version because he wrote this in French. But it is what it says. It's the history of the medieval imagination. And that is a huge theme in my writing and in my thinking right now. And I haven't had time to read that book apart from my reading list. I know I'm not going to have time to read it once the semester starts because I'm taking 2 classes plus doing reading hours plus doing Latin. Help. So I might read that over break. What I might do actually is spend December on fiction, and then once January starts and I start kind of getting back into school mode, that's when I'll start doing lesson plans and things like that. But when I get back into school mode, I might start reading this and try to knock it out in a couple of weeks, even though I won't be able to take like extensive notes on it, reading it just in 2 weeks. I'd like to just get through it and get some initial thoughts down, take some quick notes, or at least mark passages that I'm like, this is good. And that way I can refer back to it later. So that's probably what I'll do. I think that's a good plan. One last thing, you may have noticed that I closed down my Patreon, and that was a tough decision to make because I had just opened it. But I quickly realized that it was not the time. This was not the time for me to be doing that because with people subscribing and actually paying regularly, I wanted to deliver the best quality content possible. And I just knew that with the season of life that I'm in, being able to do that consistently month to month was just not going to be possible. And so I decided to pull back from that and just continue with my channel as I can do so. And then my Substack will be my place where I write. So those are the 2 places to follow me. I think that's it. Wherever you are, I hope you have a wonderful end to your November, and that the holidays, the holy days ahead of us are both peaceful and joyful for you, and that you take some time to really press into these days. These are beautiful days, sacred days. And if they're not the best time of year for you, if, for whatever reason, this is a difficult time of year for you, I encourage you to try as best as you can to reclaim them for yourself in ways that make them a benefit to you. They're meant to be life-giving days. And if they're not, you might stop and ask yourself, why are they not? And how can I fix that? Sometimes there's not a whole lot within our power that we can change, but what little there is, take the opportunity to do that for your own sake. Okay, well, I will see you next time.